is must-see TV, by the way, for anyone who's starting college in the fall or who has a teenager headed there. Did you know it's estimated that in the upcoming school year, close to 250,000 students will embark on what some might consider a collegiate rite of passage, joining a fraternity or sorority. Now, full disclosure, in 1978, I pledged Delta, Delta, Delta. That's a picture of me at a Tri-Delt dance with my friend Celeste. I know, those were the days, right? While Greek life, as it's known, offers an instant circle of friends, a great sense of community, and brotherly or sisterly bonds, there's a dark side to the Greek system, and that is hazing. According to a recent poll, 73% of fraternity and sorority members admit to being victims of hazing, but of those students, only 5% actually reported it. Hillary Holt, a junior at the University of Connecticut, was one of those, and she wants more students to do the same. So today, she's speaking out.
My name is Hillary. I'm 22 years old, and I'm a junior at the University of Connecticut. I started going to college while I lived in Hawaii. I just wanted to try out the East Coast. I applied to several different ones, but UConn was my top choice. When I first got to UConn, I was really excited. It was a different change of scenery. The first week of school passed, and different sororities set up, tables for you to go and check out. I wanted to join a sorority because I wanted that sisterhood bond. The sorority I decided on was Kappa Kappa Gamma. We had little events where we got to really figure out what the sorority was all about. Pledging took up a lot of my time, but it was definitely well worth it. I was creating a lifelong friendship with these girls. We also had different sisterhood events. We all went to homecoming together, which was a lot of fun. We raised money to support breast cancer awareness. I really liked where it was going. It felt right. And then one night, everything changed.
Please welcome Hillary Holt and her attorney, Gloria Allred. Nice to see you both. So, Hillary, it sounds like you were really enjoying being a member of a sorority, that you were meeting fun people and doing fun things, but as you said, everything changed one night. What happened?
Right. So, March 6th was, just a regular day, and I was picked up from my dorm and taken to dinner. I was never led to believe that anything would happen. Dinner was fine. I was taken to the SAE house, led to the back, and a door was open where we were supposed to enter. And as soon as I entered that room, it was just like the intimidation and the fear.
Why? What was in that room?
I saw 3 girls with blindfolds on, and it was scary. I didn't know what was going to happen.
And there were SAE members and Kappa Kappa Gamma members in the room.
Right.
Sort of without blindfolds, right? Kind of gathered. How many people about? Do you remember?
There was probably about 10 or 15.
And what happened? What did they start doing?
They immediately instructed me to line up against the wall, and we weren't allowed to laugh or talk or say anything. So then, that lasted about 20 minutes. And during that 20 minutes, we were required to lay on the floor and sizzle like bacon, hold our ankles and jump up and down while we professed our love for Kappa with cursing. And, in a mixture of that, we had beers slammed down in front of our faces, forced to take shots.
How many shots were you forced to take?
Probably about 3 during that time. And, then after that, we were given a string, taken to another room, and along that were nips of alcohol. And in the other room, I was given a bottle of alcohol that was opened for me, and then given to me to drink as well. That didn't last very long in that room. We were taken downstairs to the basement, where we had to play beer pong, and with members of Kappa, we were asked questions about the members of SAE, If we answered them wrong, we had to drink, and if we answered them right, we had to drink.
So a lot of forced drinking.
Right.
What were you feeling at the time? Were you scared? Were you, I mean,
Yeah.
did you ever say, I don't want to drink anymore? Or?
There was one point where, you know, when I was given the bottle of wine, I actually held on to it because I didn't want to drink it at that point because I'm a lightweight, you know. I'm a small girl, you know, 105 pounds. So, you know, I knew my limits, and I wasn't one of the girls that go to these parties every weekend. And
so you weren't a big regular drinker?
No, definitely not.
And so ultimately you blacked out.
Right.
And you woke up and you were in the hospital, in a hospital gown, which must have been pretty terrifying too.
Yeah.
I mean, did you know what had happened or what was going on at that point?
I had no idea where I was. You know, I obviously looked down and saw the hospital gown on me, but I didn't know what hospital I was at, who had taken me there, and there was no one by my side, no sister, no one to tell me anything, you know.
You called the police, I know.
Yeah.
From the hospital or when you got home?
As soon as I woke up, the nurse came by and she had asked me, you know, do you know where you're at? I told her, you know, I'm in the hospital and I need to speak with the police. So the police was the first person I talked to, even before my parents.
So, Gloria, you pieced together what you believe happened to Hillary from the police report that was filed and from interviews, I imagine, with various eyewitnesses. So what happened between the hazing incident at SAE and Hillary being taken to the hospital?
Yes, Katie, the University of Connecticut did an investigation, what they call a community standards investigative report, which I have. And based on that report, the University of Connecticut found that, in fact, Hillary was given, provided, essentially required to take quite a bit of alcohol to ingest it, that when she was taken back to her dorm, that in fact that member of Kappa Kappa did not even want her to go to the hospital, and it was only the residence advisor who insisted that 911 be called, that the ambulance come, that she be taken to the hospital, and we thank them for that because we think that saved her life.
And Hillary's parents, Marcia and Brian Holt, are here, and I know that Brian, you were in Hawaii at the time this happened. Marcia, you were in California when you got a call that your daughter was in the hospital. So what was going through your mind?
You know, I had a lot of emotions. I was very upset, number one. Here's my daughter, and she's been hazed. I'm 5,000 miles away, and I'm trying to understand really what to do at that point. I knew that, you know, we tried to contact Hillary later on. We weren't able to speak to her at that time, and I was just very upset because I couldn't get to her.
I know that, Marcia and Brian, you contacted the University of Connecticut. Hillary, you filed a complaint with the university's Community Standards Board, and then you hired Gloria Allred. And Marcia, how did the university respond to you? Were they receptive to your concerns?
Very responsive. They,
Well, we had a lot of contact with the university, and they were very proactive. They were making steps to look into the situation. They assured us that they would get to the bottom of the truth, and I really felt like that through the entire process that we've gone through over the last several months that they did an excellent job because they really tried to find out the truth.
And what action was taken, Gloria, as a result?
Katie, Kappa Kappa Gamma was suspended for 4 years. In other words, all of their rights and privileges and recognition at the University of Connecticut has been revoked. And also SAE for 5 years, same thing. No more rights and privileges on the University of Connecticut campus. But I just want to give a lot of credit to Hillary because she was willing to speak truth to power, because she was willing to talk to the police and the University of Connecticut, she has helped to protect other girls in the future from this very dangerous hazing that took place and that she had to suffer.
Do you anticipate taking any further legal action?
We want justice for Hillary. And so far, Katie, Kappa Kappa Gamma and SAE have really done nothing to reach out to help Katie, and we think that she has been significantly harmed by this, and that they need to do their job of helping her. It's not enough to punish them. They need to affirmatively reach out and make sure that she's okay and do what is right for her.
Well, you're still going to school at the University of Connecticut. How have you been treated by people who were in that sorority or in that fraternity?
Right. You know, before all this happened, I would get highs and, you know, hellos and hugs and stuff throughout campus if I saw members of both fraternity and the sorority. And now it's just a blank stare and walked right past me like they don't even know me.
We reached out to Kappa Kappa Gamma and to SAE for comment, and Kappa Kappa Gamma's statement read in part, "The safety and well-being of our members are top priorities. The alleged events of March 6th are in direct violation of our policies. Kappa will continue to work with the University of Connecticut's administration to fully understand the events that took place. However, we believe that removing an entire chapter from campus for the poor decisions made by a few individuals at an unsanctioned event is both wrong and misguided." Meanwhile, SAE echoed those sentiments. "We are committed to the health, safety, and well-being of our members, which includes other students who interact with our fraternity. The behavior of individual charter members detailed in the university report is completely unacceptable, goes against our values. The chapter has appealed its suspension with the University of Connecticut." So both SAE and Kappa Kappa Gamma have appealed this decision.
And the University of Connecticut has a student code, and they found that Kappa Kappa and SAE violated that code. And so they understand that, you know, there was a life put at risk here that should never have been placed at risk.
What do you hope speaking out will do, not only at the University of Connecticut, Hillary, but at schools all across the country? Because certainly this is not an isolated case.
Right. So I've started an organization, Shine, and, you know, my purpose is to not have any other students go through what I've gone through. This has been tough mentally, emotionally, and physically on me by speaking out. But I want girls and guys as well to know that it's okay. No matter the, you know, the negative feedback, the best thing to do is speak out and go to the police and go to your university, you know, so.
All right. Well, Hillary and Gloria, Marcia and Brian, thank you all for telling your story today. We appreciate it. And up next, we're going to meet a journalist who went undercover as a sorority pledge. We'll find out what she discovered right after this. Welcome back, everyone. So today our big conversation is about hazing. 44 states have anti-hazing laws, but are they really enforced? Tracy Maxwell is the founder of hazingprevention.org, and Alexander Robbins is the New York Times best-selling author of Pledged, The Secret Life of Sororities. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to start with you, Alex. How in the world were you able to infiltrate a sorority?
Infiltrate. Well, I did it at a time when I could actually pass for a student. I immersed myself in college life to investigate sororities from the inside out.
And what did you find?
I found out a lot about what goes on behind closed doors. Some girls were strongly encouraged to do everything from performing simulated sex acts with objects while others snapped pictures, to consuming mass quantities of alcohol while sitting in bathtubs full of ice, to attending naked parties in which sisters would run around the house naked, sometimes hooking up with each other before they let the boys in. One interest, boob ranking. During boob ranking, pledges had to race the clock to...
Were you surprised? You know, this wasn't that long ago when you did this, that these kind of sort of practices existed today? I mean, were you shocked?
I was absolutely shocked. I had no idea that that's what I was getting myself into.
And in fact, I know you went undercover at one university. You didn't disclose the school in the book
Correct.
You wrote. And you profiled 4 different girls. So were they all from different sororities?
3 of them were in one sorority and 1 was in the other. And they kept saying to me, you know, we thought that we were just going into a sorority to find some place to belong. That's all they wanted. They didn't know how much more comes along with that.
And how did they feel about some of the things that you described and witnessed?
They weren't expecting it. You know, when you're 17, 18, going to college for the first time, you're vulnerable, you're impressionable, you think this is a great way to make friends. And they don't realize that there are so many rules, so many practices, so many traditions that are so ingrained that they're in for a lot more than they anticipated.
So, Tracy, I guess the big question is, we hear about hazing, but what actually constitutes hazing? Because some people might think, well, there are certain practices that are all in good fun, or, you know, kind of drinking games or things like that. But when does it cross the line into actual hazing?
So I tell people to think about some key terms like humiliation, degradation. If those things are happening to you in a sorority, that has no place in an organization that is about values. So if you're being embarrassed, if you're being asked to do things that make you really uncomfortable, those are all kind of keys. And then anything that is going to put you in physical or psychological harm.
What are some of the worst things that you've been told about in terms of hazing?
You know, there are some of the most common things that have come out in the research involve what Alex talked about. Simulated sex, sleep deprivation, things that sometimes are used with prisoners of war are actually common hazing practices, and obviously a lot of alcohol, and that exacerbates the problem.
And in fact, recently, wasn't there a case where a boy in a fraternity had been hit quite hard with a towel?
Yes, he lost a testicle, and 14 people have been charged from a school in Ohio for that.
So, you know, this is not fun and games. And I know that there are anti-hazing laws, as we mentioned, but what do they prohibit? Are they clear enough, and are they in fact enforced?
You know, they're not enforced very often, and there are 44 states that have laws, as you mentioned, and they're very different from state to state. In some states it's a misdemeanor, and others it's a felony, and it's really difficult in a courtroom to prove hazing, as it sometimes is on a campus in a student conduct case as well. So they're not always enforced as well as they could be.
And I know many of these cases involve forced consumption of alcohol, as we heard from Hillary. And there have been 60 fraternity-related deaths since 2005, many of them related to alcohol. You know, we've heard of cases really not that long ago of a student dying from alcohol poisoning. So when that happens, do schools start to take this more seriously? It seems to me, Alex, nobody wants to have a student have that fate as a result of hazing or any kind of Greek life.
There's a lot of confusion as to who governs the Greek groups, because the sororities are generally governed by national headquarters. One girl I interviewed even said to me, if national sorority rules conflict with university rules, then sorority rules win. So sometimes hazing can slip through the cracks, and that's why it's not enforced.
So what is the bottom line here? What can be done to prevent these incidents from happening, dangerous situations, even deaths?
Yeah. Well, you know, my organization, hazingprevention.org, is trying to do just that, because we do recognize that just saying to students, hey, this isn't a good idea, don't do this, is not working. We need a broader approach that involves really preventing problems before they happen.
And what about you, Alex? I mean, it seems to be so much part and parcel of university life. I mean, how do you really put a dent into this practice? Because it's been going on for decades.
I think it's time for universities to take responsibilities for student groups. They dismiss it too quickly and say, well, that's not our property, that house. These aren't our groups. But you know what? They're students. Then they belong to you, and you need to take care of them. There are a lot of happy, healthy chapters out there, I just want to say, that really do focus on friendship and community service and sisterhood. They are out there. You just have to find them.
All right. Well, this is something I think a lot of parents are going to want to talk to their kids who are heading off to college, including me, because I have a daughter who's going to be a freshman next year. So thank you both so much. And for more information and resources about hazing, you can head to our website at katiecouric.com. We'll be right back.